Hello my lovely friends, my name is Ava and today we're going to be talking about my favorite romance duets. I honestly don't love romance duets. I don't, because I feel like a lot of the time the duets that I read did not need to be two books. They could have easily put it into one. These recommendations, however, I feel like are perfect as duets. Like, they did not need to be one book. I feel like the authors did an amazing job as making them into two books. We're gonna start with my favorite one. If you know this duet, this one will completely wreck you and then slowly put your heart back together. So you need to read this duet together. This is the Full Tilt duet by Miss Emma Scott. Emma Scott knows how to write a duet. There's another one on this list from her. Full Tilt is the romance between Casey and Jonah. Casey is this rock star, a part of this all-women rock band, and she is hitting rock bottom. She's frankly an alcoholic, and after one of the shows that she performs, one of her bodyguards puts her in the back of the limo that Jonah is driving. He is hired to be the driver. The bodyguard tells him, hey, go drop her off at where we're staying. He goes to do that. She's blackout drunk in the back seat and no one's home. All the lights are off. There's no key under the mat. And so he's like, I can't leave this blackout drunk girl on the porch, so I'm gonna take her home and have her sleep on my couch. That's what he does, and when she wakes up, she is kind of mortified. Jonah entering her life kind of changes it in a way, and she realizes what's worth living for in her life. And I can't talk about this one at all. So I don't think I'm really gonna be talking about the second books because there are spoilers, obviously, but this one will wreck you and this one will put you back together. So I'm just gonna say that. Next I have the Beautiful Heart duet by Emma Scott. This one starts out with Bring Down the Stars, and then we have Long Live the Beautiful Hearts. And this one is actually a love triangle romance. You kind of know who she's gonna pick in the end though, because there's only one male point of view. So I did kind of wish that Emma Scott put the other hero's point of view, because maybe we wouldn't have been like known. But anyway, we kind of know the whole time who she's gonna choose. This starts out in college, and our heroine ends up meeting one of these boys and almost on like the quad, and she almost gets hit in the face with a football from him. They're the two that meet first, and then she ends up meeting the other guy at the library later that day, and they have fantastic banter and get along so well. And she has no idea that those two guys are best friends, basically have been brothers since middle school. They live together, like they're best friends. And so when they run into each other, the first guy that ran into her is like, oh my gosh, I'm so smitten with her. And the other hero backs off. He's like, okay, he met her first, I'm gonna hold off. So that's kind of all I can say about these, but they're really good. They're full of emotion and I definitely recommend them. Next, I have the Hearts in Darkness series by Laura Kay. This is actually a bind up of the two books right here. So the first book starts out with both of our characters meeting in an elevator. However, they have no idea what the other person looks like because they both entered the elevator like looking down at their phone or something, and the power gets turned off, or there's a power outage and the lights go off in the elevator. They had no idea what the other person looks like. They're the only two people in there, and they're in there for hours, and they get to know each other and help each other out. One of them has a panic attack on page. So these two actually end up falling for each other while they're stuck in an elevator. So the first book in this duet is basically that day and how they fell in love, and then the second book is what happens after that. And I feel like this one is so underrated and I need more people to read it, please. I have the Man in Charge duet by Laura Lynn Page. First is A Man in Charge, and the second one is Man in Love. I love this meeting moment at the beginning of book number one. So this is like a billionaire forbidden workplace romance. Okay, this starts out with the heroine going to the top of this rooftop. There's a party going on that she went to, and she goes to the roof of the club or party that they're at, and she ends up watching this man hooking up very publicly a woman on the roof, and she's like, I can't take her eyes off him. That is her hero, and he just becomes like enthralled with this woman who's like watching him, and they have a one-night stand after that. And then she shows up to work with a new client at his office, and it just happens to be our hero. So there's a lot of drama going on in these. I also really love this series because the heroine's best friend has POTS, and so I love that representation because That is a condition that I have, and I thought it was so well done. I also have the Landon and Shay duet by Brittany Cherry. You have Landon and Shay part 1 and then Landon and Shay part 2. Part 1 is when they're both in high school, and the hero and heroine, Landon and Shay, they don't get along like whatsoever, and one of his classmates kind of like dares him to make Shay fall in love with him, but she's overhearing this. She's like, okay, no, I'm gonna make you fall in love with me first. Whoever falls in love with the other person first, like, forget what the bet was, but they have to do something. So yeah, they spend more time together to try to get the other person to fall in love with them, but they both fall for each other instead. So that's what book number 1 is, and then book number 2 takes place years later. If you want a Mafia one, I have Mafia Mistress and Mafia Darling by Mila Finelli. Book number 1, our heroine, I think she's like 19 or something. Anyway, she gets put in an arranged marriage with another mafia young man, but then that young man's father, who's a big time mafia boss, ends up meeting her, and I was like, okay, no, I think she's gonna be my mistress instead. Yeah, book number 1 ends on a cliffhanger, and Mafia Darling is the continuation. And I don't want to say anything else because it could be a spoiler, but I thought this was great. I have the Best Kept Secret duet by Candy Steiner. This is book number 2. I don't own book number 1. I need to find a copy because this version I think is out of print now, and I don't own book number 1. So I need to figure out how to find that. Go to like Panko Books or something. But this is book number 2. What He Always Knew. And this one is another love triangle romance, but this is a series where you have no idea who she's gonna choose in the end. No clue. The heroine is going through some marital problems. She is married, and throughout these problems, they get a new hire at the school that she works at, and it was her first boyfriend, first crush, first everything, and feelings start arising, and she's like, what is going on? Like, I love my husband. And yeah, it's basically a duet of her trying to figure out who she wants to be with. It's very dramatic, very angsty, and yeah, there's cheating in here, so be aware of that. I don't know the name of this series, but the first book is Within These Walls by J.L. Berg, and then there's the continuation book. It has purple text. I can't remember the title off the top of my head. I apologize. But I love this book. I feel like this is one of the romance books that really got me into the romance genre. I read it back in like 2017, I want to say. This heroine has a chronic heart condition, I think, and that's what it is. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But she is in and out of the hospital. At the beginning of this book, she's back in the hospital, and the hero is actually her nurse, her night nurse, and they just get to talking, get to know each other. Eventually they fall in love, but the hero has experienced quite a lot of trauma in his life. His fiance actually died in that hospital, and he has not left since. And that's all I'm gonna leave you with. And lastly, I have to mention this duet. Like, hello, if you want a fantasy romance duet, you gotta read these. This is the Wraith King series. Technically there's another book in this series. However, this is the main duet. This is Radiance, and this is Eidolon. Sorry for the glare. Radiance is an arranged marriage romance between Ildiko and Brishan. They're from 2 different humanoid species in this fantasy world, and they get in this marriage to align their families, and they think the other person is really ugly, but they become best friends, and then the friendship slowly morphs into lust, into romance, into love. Like, it's so beautiful, and this one's a continuation, and I feel like a great continuation, like so good. Anyways, there you have it. Those are some romance duets that I would totally recommend. Let me know down below if you've read any of these duets or if you plan to, and leave your recommendations down below of romance duets. I'm always looking for more. I'm very picky about them, but if y'all really recommend them with like your whole heart and chest, I will definitely try to pick them up. If you don't feel like commenting anything else, you can leave me a heart emoji of any kind down below. But anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all soon in my next one. Bye y'all.